to Medical Dialogues, your daily dose of health and medical news. I am Dr. Rashi Prakash, and here is what I bring to you, all from the world of medicines. Study identifies new gene which can increase chemotherapeutic response in medulloblastomas. An international team led by the Department of Neurosurgery, Niigata University, has identified a new gene called SLFN11, whose expression is tightly correlated with response to chemotherapy in medulloblastomas, a highly malignant brain tumor affecting pediatric, adolescent, and young adult populations. The results of the study were published online in the journal Neuro-Oncology on October 23, 2022. Researchers first noticed that SLFN11 is highly expressed in almost all cases of WNT-activated medulloblastomas, which is the molecular subgroup with the best prognosis. Further studies using blastoma cell lines showed that genetically manipulating SLFN11 led to drastic changes in response to cisplatin, a key drug for treating this deadly tumor. Some cases of medulloblastomas respond better to treatment than others, but researchers did not know why. We can now better anticipate which cases will respond to chemotherapy. They also found that by using a different drug called HDAC inhibitor, they can increase SLFN11 levels in tumors and make them more responsive to cisplatin. In conclusion, this finding can pave new path to treat cancer and medulloblastomas. Ultra-processed foods linked to premature deaths. Ultra-processed foods have the highest consumption in modern world as they are ready to eat or heat industrial formulations made with ingredients extracted from foods or synthesized in laboratories that have gradually been replacing traditional foods and meals made from fresh and minimally processed ingredients in many countries. A new study in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine published by Elsevier has found that increased consumption of these foods was associated with more than 10% of all-cause premature preventable deaths in Brazil in 2019. Although Brazilians consume far less of these products than countries with high incomes, researchers model data from nationally representative dietary surveys to estimate baseline intakes of ultra-processed foods by sex and age group. Statistical analysis were used to estimate the proportion of total deaths that were attributable to the consumption of ultra-processed foods and the impact of reducing intake of ultra-processed foods by 10%, 20% and 50% within those age groups using data from 2019. Across all age groups and sex strata, consumption of the ultra-processed foods ranged from 13% to 21% of total food intake in Brazil during the period studied. A total of 5,41,260 adults aged 30 to 69 died prematurely in 2019, of whom 2,61,061 were from preventable, non-communicable diseases. The model found that approximately 50,000 deaths that year could be attributed to the consumption of ultra-processed foods, which corresponded to 10.5% of all premature deaths and 21.8% of all deaths from preventable, non-communicable diseases in adults aged 30 to 69. The investigators suggested that in high-income countries such as the United States, Canada, the UK, and Australia, where ultra-processed foods account for more than half the total caloric intake, the estimated impact would be even higher. Reducing consumption of ultra-processed foods by 10% to 50% could potentially prevent approximately 5,900 to 29,300 premature deaths in Brazil each year. In conclusion, researchers said that consumption of ultra-processed foods is associated with many disease outcomes such as obesity, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, some cancers and other diseases, and it represents a significant cause of preventable and premature deaths among Brazilian adults. Managing eczema in babies, 5 things to know. Atopic dermatitis affects 10% to 20% of Canadian infants. Recognizing atopic dermatitis, getting it into remission, then keeping control can be challenging for both clinicians and caregivers. Atopic dermatitis is common in babies and can be stressful for parents to manage, according to an article in Canadian Medical Association Journal. Atopic dermatitis on cheeks, outer limbs and trunk are common in infants, and classic eczema affecting behind the knees and in the elbow creases may not develop until later in childhood. The best moisturizer is the one that caregivers and patients will use. New evidence shows that any type of moisturizer, lotion, cream, gel or ointment used at least twice daily helps with managing atopic dermatitis. Atopic dermatitis is an inflammatory condition that requires anti-inflammatory treatment. The lowest dose of topical steroids should be used to gain control over flares. Applying once a day is as effective as twice per day. If flares frequently recur, using topical medications intermittently on 2 consecutive days, for example on weekends, can prevent subsequent flares. Evidence does not support using antibiotics routinely to treat local secondary bacterial infection. Food avoidance may not improve eczema and may increase the risk of food allergy. That's all for today. Stay tuned to Medical Dialogues for daily updates.
Never miss a medical update from Medical Dialogues. Like, subscribe, and press the bell icon.